So we'll just wait around for a few minutes now and see if other people can join us. Settle in. Hopefully you're having a nice evening where you are. The sun's come out to play now. It's a bit miserable earlier. Okay. Give us a few minutes here to people to settle in, log on and join in to our NRAS Live with the Helpline. And I'll probably repeat this in a few moments, but it's going to be the information and support team hosting tonight. Welcome to anyone joining us. So we're just waiting for a few more minutes to see if anybody else can join in. Just as I said the sun was out, it's gone back in. Hopefully it's warm wherever you are. So tonight we're actually doing NRAS Live from our office in Maidenhead. So we are in different rooms around the office, and we'll be introducing ourselves in a moment or two. Right. Okay, well, I think we'll get started. Now's as good a time as any. So firstly, good evening and welcome to May's NRAS Live. And tonight it's the turn of the information support team to host. We're going to be talking about general frequently asked questions, top tips that we can recommend or suggest that we've been commonly asked on the NRAS helpline. We did ask some questions to be pre-submitted. We will try and answer a few questions at the end as well if we can. If we run out of time and you've asked a question and haven't got an answer, we will endeavour to answer you by private message if it's come through by Facebook. If you haven't received an answer, you'll see the number on the bottom for our helpline. Do please call us or email us and we'll be happy to answer if we can't get in touch with you. As ever, we do need to say that we are not medically trained and we won't be discussing any issues relating to medicines or personal medical issues. Okay, so basically, let's meet the team. So we'll introduce ourselves and say who we are, what we do and why we do it, basically. So as a general outline with the information and support team, we're responsible for answering helpline calls and emails, but we also deal with the referred service calls. So for example, we handle the Right Start calls for people who are newly diagnosed with RA, and also the living with calls for those who have a more established disease, who've been living with RA for quite some time. And these services are referred by healthcare professionals. We also moderate our online forum on platforms like Health Unlocked as well. And I also have to say that we are a lot more comfortable at the end of a telephone than we are in front of a camera. Okay, so as you can see, I'm Sarah and I'm the Information and Support Services Manager. I've been here for just coming up to about 5 years now. My main role will be obviously answering calls and doing all the normal day-to-day stuff, but also ensuring the smooth running of the helpline, making sure everybody's got their calls answered. I do the reporting and I do try and keep my meetings to a minimum because those keep me away from what I like doing most, which is listening to people, talking to people and helping people. So, Amy.
Thank you, Sarah. So I am part of the Information and Support Coordinator. I've been here just coming up to 1 year. I very much enjoy it. And my role is to deal with phone calls and emails that come through the helpline, and also to make booked phone calls such as the Right Start service, which is for newly diagnosed people with RA, but also we do living with calls, which is for people who are more established with their RA. Thank you, Rosie.
Hello, I'm Rosie. I joined the team in September last year, and sort of similar to Amy, I answer helpline calls and emails, and carry out the sort of booked calls from our healthcare referrals with the sort of people that are newly diagnosed and those that have more established RA, hopefully offering a friendly ear at the end of a call.
Perfect, thank you. We also have a fourth member of the team. We are a small team, and we've also got another member, Debbie, who's not doing the whole information support evening tonight, but she did hop in to say hello. So you can say hello to everybody. Hello. So you may have spoken to Debbie on the helpline. She's been here about the same length of time as I have, about 5 years. So that's us. And let's move over to some of the questions that we've been asked. So a topical question, of course, summer holidays are quickly approaching, and many of us are starting to think about travelling plans. And whether you're going on holiday destination in the UK or going further afield, if you or a family member are living with RA, you may have some questions about travelling with medication, ways to make the journey a bit more comfortable. And we've kept a note of all these questions that we've been having about travel recently and around this topic, and we've kept them for tonight. So my first question, Rosie, do I need a fit to fly certificate?
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So if you're travelling via plane to your holiday destination, then as long as you're able to fasten and unfasten your seatbelt alone, in the unlikely event of an emergency landing or an accident, as long as you're able to administer the face oxygen mask alone as well as go into the bathroom unaided without the support of cabin crew, then you do not need a fit to fly certificate or a travel buddy companion. However, we do recommend that it's always just a good idea to double check with either your GP or specialist nurse before travelling to ensure that they do agree that you're also fit to fly.
Perfect, thank you. So our next question, this comes up a lot, I think we'll agree, is how can I transport my medication? How do I store my medication if I'm flying?
Okay, so as I'm sure people are aware, that some medications do need to be refrigerated, and it's really important that you continue to keep the medications at a consistent temperature whilst travelling. You probably need to purchase a medication travel bag, which has little special sections for ice packs that help keep the medication at the correct temperature. There are sort of things that you can do. For instance, Nadine, who used to be the old information service manager, she found that taking Ziploc bags in the sort of cool bag, allowed her to fill them up with ice as soon as she got to the airport, before boarding the plane and throughout the journey, that she could ask cabin crew to fill. Things like that can just make sure that the temperature is kept at the right level, the right temperature. And we do also suggest that you take a letter from your consultant or prescription letter, just so if you do get stopped at security, then you have sort of evidence of what you're traveling with, as some people may want to do extra additional checks or anything on the medication. And this topic is something that we see quite a lot on our helpline, but also on our Health Unlocked forum. So there have been quite a few posts previously made. We've read through these. We've gone through all the best sort of suggestions of what people found worked best for them. There will be a couple of links coming up, I think, that are some suggestions that people have found worked for them. But obviously, just do your own research. What works for you might not be, what works for somebody else might not be so suitable for you. But again, please note that it is important that you check your own requirements, specific requirements for your medication, and that also applies if you're traveling with a child who needs medication for their JIA, or for yourself. So just being aware of what is sort of relevant and needed for you. Also, as well, it's important to note that if you are traveling with medication, to keep that on your persons at all times. Maybe you may think it's easier to put into hold luggage, but actually, in the unfortunate event of your bag getting lost, then you wouldn't want to be without it on your holiday. So it's probably best to keep that in your hand luggage at all times.
Perfect, very good. And I think if the links don't come up, if people did want to find out what other users, forum users or members had suggested, then do please call us or email us, and we're quite happy to provide the suggestions made by other people. So that's good. Thank you, Rosie. Okay, so those are around about storing medication and flying with medication. Do you have, or could we suggest some general tips for travelling comfortably?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, most people save and look forward to their holidays. So you want to get as much out of the holiday as possible. So starting off in the journey, trying to be as comfortable as possible. We sort of recommend nice, loose clothing. Not wearing jeans and a hoodie, that's not very comfortable, especially if you're going long haul. And sort of wearing layers, because sometimes if you are traveling in like a cabin or on a train or carriage or something like that, then temperatures can get a bit hot, especially if you're around lots of people. So easy layers that you can take on and off as suited. Also, as well, if you are traveling on a plane, then sort of if you can request an aisle seat beforehand, so you're not having to disturb other passengers, and then you've got easy access to walk around the cabin if necessary. Keep moving, keep active can really help on the flights and things. And as well, if you are flying, we do recommend wearing flight socks, as this can help reduce the risk of a DVT. As well, if you're traveling in car, it is really important to sort of stop every so often, stop at service stations, get out, have some fresh air. And the same if you're on a boat, a train, use the space around you, get out and have a little wander. There are exercises that you can do as well when sort of stationary, so moving your hands, your feet, your wrists, things like that, to just keep the blood going and keep circulation moving. And as well, just making sure that you're as comfortable as possible, staying as hydrated as possible is really important, especially if you are flying on an airplane, as the high altitude can make you dehydrated quicker. Also, as well, if you are traveling by plane, by air travel, then getting in touch with your airline beforehand, excuse me, as this can allow you to have the airport assistance. Airports are big spaces, and the walk from the terminal to the gate can be quite far, as well as the security queues and everything. So you'll be able to get airport assistance to sort of move around the terminals. And as well, it's important to note that if you are traveling on holiday, like we said, lots of people have saved, they've looked forward to this. So if you're traveling in a group with a partner, or you're going by yourself, making sure that you're making the holiday exactly what you want it to be. So if you're traveling in a group of people and they want to go out and do an excursion one day, but you don't want to, that's absolutely fine to say, do you know what, actually, I'm going to stay back, I'm going to read my book, I'm going to have an ice cream, sit in peace for a little bit. Make sure that you're doing that, taking it nice and slow, so you're not overdoing it and then you go home feeling either in pain or more fatigued. And as well, if you're wandering around a museum and you think people are moving quicker or walking around quicker than you, then that's no problem. Take your time, soak in the culture, soak in what you've gone to see. There's no rush. And also, as well, on the topic of holidays, some medications can make you more prone to, more sensitive to sunlight, sorry. So, making sure that you're wearing high SPF, you're reapplying that regularly, especially if you've been swimming. Trying to stay out of the sunlight during the hottest parts of the day, which is 11 till 3. So seeking shade, maybe doing your activities inside during that time, and as well, just making sure that you're wearing sort of sunglasses, a nice big floppy hat or a cap or something, and wearing some sort of like protective clothing, like a nice loose cotton t-shirt that just protects you from the sun a little bit more. So just being sensible with your choices, but also it's a holiday, enjoy it and have a nice time.
Absolutely. But also, I think, we were just talking about foreign travel, but don't forget, you can do some fabulous holidays traveling around the UK. And something you said earlier, just a reminder, sun cream is just as important in the UK as it is in other countries. Ensuring your protection is really, really key. So we do have an article on our website about photosensitivity. And just note that there are a number of medications that may render you more photosensitive than others. So, for example, some anti-inflammatories and some of the DMARDs might make you a bit more sensitive. So just be aware of that. And if you're not sure if your medication is one of those, you can ask your doctor or your pharmacist. But otherwise, in terms of travel around the UK, you could think of things such as coach trips, train tours, cruises. Things like this can be a great idea because if you think about them, everything's arranged for you, it's all there for you. You arrive at the port, you disembark, and you have your allotted time where you can do what you want to. When you're finished, if you're tired, you can get back on the boat and off you go again. So it takes an element of planning. And I think one of the things that does help with travel is actually having a good, robust plan to know what you want to do, where you want to go. Fabulous. Okay. You mentioned it, excuse me, earlier about assisted travel. That also applies to train travel as well. So National Rail has a system called Passenger Assist, and it includes options such as offering a helping hand to navigate the station, support boarding or disembarking a train, meeting you from the train, moving you to your next train or to the exit. You might need a ramp to help get you off. Also, the porters that come and help may be able to help with some luggage, but there may be some weight restrictions on the luggage that they can do. And you don't need a blue badge or any benefits to do this. Anybody with any difficulty can request. So we might put the National Rail URL to their webpage up below. But again, if it doesn't come up, please contact us and we'll happily help and supply. Additionally, what you might be able to find out as well, if you're going to a particular destination, you can search on National Rail and just see what accessibility there is at the station. So that might be important for you to know, what help you can get. On their stations page, there's a map of the UK. It's zoomable, and you can just search through it and zoom in on your station and see what accessibility there is. And again, that helps with your planning and where you're going. Other things to note about with travel is, are there any concessions or travel cards that may be helpful to you? So for some travel cards, you can actually get about 1/3 off travel. Disabled Persons Rail Card does offer 1/3 off rail travel, and this includes for a companion. However, there are eligibility criteria, and you might need to be on certain benefits such as personal independence payments or adult disability payments. But have a look and check out and see if that might suit you. Flip side as well, Disabled Bus Persons Pass. Contact your local council to find out who issues the bus pass in your area. And that one may well, again, depend on whether you're getting an eligible benefit. So, for example, if you're scoring 8 points or more in the moving around section on personal independence payments. So have a look at, if it comes up, yes, there it is, Disabled Persons Rail Card. And if there's the bus person one that comes up, can't speak, the bus pass, you can have a look at that as well, but we can find those links for you. Other things to think about is that some websites for holiday lets, holiday accommodation, have advanced search features, and you can have a look and see what accessibility criteria they have. Do you need a wet room? Do you need a hoist? Do you need room for a carer? They might be things you might want to consider. They might not be, but just know that there are things out there that you could look at to make arranging your holiday a little more easier for you.
Love. So, sort of moving on now, many of our callers we have noticed are having more questions about their social needs rather than sort of more medical. So, Amy, what exactly is a social need and how can this be met?
Thank you, Rosie. So a social need can be one of loneliness and worries about financial difficulties, wanting to improve your lifestyle, and also needing some support emotionally.
Okay, lovely. And there's been sort of a lot recently spoken about social prescriber, but I know that not everyone's aware of what a social prescriber is. So are you able to explain this to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So a social prescriber connects people to activities, to groups and services in their local community. and to meet the practical, social and emotional needs to ensure that, there's a healthy well-being, both emotionally and physically.
Okay, lovely. And if somebody felt they needed the support from a social prescriber, how would they go about accessing one?
So anybody within your GP surgery can make a referral for you. It doesn't have to be a healthcare professional, so it can be a practice nurse or a receptionist, a medical secretary, pharmacist, anybody within the surgery can make that referral.
Okay, lovely. And what exactly can a social prescriber offer somebody?
So a social prescriber can signpost and connect you with many different organisations that you may not know actually exist. So they have a real wealth of knowledge within the community. But they can also put you in touch with community clubs, groups, and can help access exercise groups, befrienders, debt and financial help, and many, many more aspects of emotional well-being.
Okay, lovely. So, like Sarah mentioned at the beginning, we did put an opportunity out there for people to ask questions beforehand. We did receive a question, and it's something that we do hear quite a lot on our helpline. I'm going to read the question out now, and then Amy's going to let you know what avenues of support there are out there for this person or people in a similar situation. So the question reads: after initial diagnosis in late 2019 and the pandemic, I have been struggling with feelings of isolation and loneliness. Any tips on how I can combat this?
Okay, thanks, Rosie. So yeah, as Rosie mentioned, there are several options. Okay, first being our helpline here at NRAS, which you'll see the number going along the bottom of the screen, and we have the most current information. We give emotional support, discuss the impact that RA may have on work and relationships, and we also help people understand more about RA and the treatments that are available as well. We can also direct you to our groups that are both online and face-to-face, and you can find this in our Connect with Others section on our website. Now, there is an organisation called the REM Project, and they specialise in autoimmune conditions, and they offer you a talking and listening service. So you can self-refer, and you can do that via the website, or you can find the link on our website too.
Okay, lovely. And it's really nice to know that, there are lots of support out there for people that need it. And obviously, we're always happy to have a chat with people. Now, Amy, we've gone through the sort of social and emotional services that are available to people. But some of the service users that we speak to ask us about what help they can get within the home, such as sort of like day-to-day living and adaptations. Do you know how we could go about sort of accessing this?
Absolutely. So what you can do is contact the occupational therapy department via your local council. I believe it's usually through adult social services or child social services if it's for a child with JIA that's needing a little bit more help around the house. It may be in a form of maybe some bath rails, some handrails, raised toilet seats, maybe perching stools, just things that may help with day-to-day living and just making it that a little bit easier for you. It's important to obviously get the assessment done by the occupational therapist, and they will come out and assess you in your home and just see how they can help. You will not be charged for the equipment as it is supplied for you. Now, however, if you feel that you need some building work, such as a bath may no longer be functional for you. So I know that on the helpline, we've had calls where people have decided to have a wet room put in. You can contact, it's a Gov UK website, because you may be able to get VAT relief on the building work. But it's really, we do suggest that you contact them beforehand just to see whether this is something that you meet the criteria for. Alternatively, you could approach community organisations and see whether there's any community grants that you may be entitled to, or that you may meet criteria again. There is an organisation called Turn to Us, and the link will be added hopefully. If not, as my colleagues have said, please do pick up the phone. We're here to help.
Thank
Okay.
you, Amy.
Okay, so we're moving on to lifestyle. So talking about adaptations in the home, we have had some calls regarding adaptations and gadgets around the home, or to help with hobbies. Please note, we are not endorsing any particular product or company, but passing on suggestions that others have found helpful. Again, check with the supplier, as some may have VAT relief. So Sarah, if I could ask you, what can help with animal care?
There are some things, some suggestions for pet care, animal care, and our pets are such an important part of our life and so beneficial for our physical and mental well-being. So there are some gadgets available that can help with pet care. So, for example, there is a website called Living Made Easy, and we will come back to this in a moment. And Living Made Easy is not the only one, I have to say. And they have a category for pet care. And some of the things that they'll suggest is that you can have a pooper scooper with an extra long arm. You can actually find this in Pets at Home as well. You can get pet feeding stations that come up 2 bowls on a long handle so you can lift them up. The idea being that you can do all the work you need to from a raised height, say from a tabletop or a countertop, so that you don't have to keep bending down and up. That can be a problem. We do sometimes get asked about leads, and I think this one's a bit trickier to answer because I think it depends on the owner and the dog. You can get leads that attach to a wheelchair. You can get leads, and I've seen them suggested, that tie around someone's waist. But I think that really does depend on the behaviour of the dog, because if you've got quite a boisterous dog and they see something, they could run. So I think really think about the level of training of your dog, what your needs are in terms of if you've got sore hands or elbows or shoulders. We've got a couple of articles, and maybe if you want to call in or email us, we can point you to some articles that may give you some ideas of where to source, but I think that one might need individual research. Other things that may be helpful for you, people's dispensary for sick animals say that some pet owners may qualify for help if they're on benefits, and if you live near one of the pet hospitals or the pet care practices, you may be able to get help on pet care costs. Something that's quite useful is if you're over 65 and you have a dog, the Cinnamon Trust may be able to help you with dog walking. So they have a network of volunteers who offer free dog walking. So again, that can be a nice comfort to know that your dog can be out walking if you're not able to take it. Another area that we often get asked about is crafting, and crafting is really good. Keeping up with a hobby is great for your mental well-being. One of the areas that I've heard questions on is about knitting, and of course this depends on whether there's any issues in the fingers, wrists, elbows, etc. So trying to find a way around it that works for you. For example, Amy found a great video on knitting, and instead of using needles, you use your arms. It's arm knitting, and a lady does demonstrate knitting a blanket. You can do things like choose lightweight bamboo needles. There is an aid, something called a knitting aid, that is a support. It keeps your needles and the wool and what your work keeps it quite secure and safe, and you can stop and start and move around. Other things you might look at, for example, if you're crocheting, you might want a little easy grip crochet hook. You might also want to adapt what you're doing. For example, if previously you were knitting fancy cable knit jumpers and that might be an issue now, you could always use your skills in a different way and knit maybe squares, because there are a lot of charities, neonatal units, or even pet animal homes might want blankets. So if you did lots of squares, they could be sewn together to make blankets, so your skills would not go to waste. Other craft supplies you can find memory foam toppers that go on the end that you can insert at the bottom, and they just make it easier to grip. You can find those quite easily in places. You can find special scissors that are round end loop, and that makes cutting easier. If you haven't got the grip to open the scissors, it works in a different way. So looking out for alternatives, and again, we can help if there's something you were particularly interested in. Finally, I was going to say about gardening ideas as well. I think if you can garden at waist height, that would be quite a good idea, or seated. Sometimes that getting up and down backs and knees can be quite affected. So if you can garden by bringing things onto the table, get everything you need, do it on the table, maybe have someone to help you if you have to plant in. Otherwise, you can look for ergonomic gardening equipment such as secateurs, which are available online. Again, Living Made Easy have a section on garden adaptations, so you can find long-handled implements designed for working at a seated position, and some have a support cuff that goes around the arm, a bit like on a walking stick, so you can sit down and reach further if you need to dig soil. So things like that can be used and can be found and can help.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. So we're just going to have some questions about gadgets. So Sarah, you have mentioned Living Made Easy website. What is this?
It is a very good website, and we do suggest it to a lot of our callers. And it's a website for researching items, if you like. So, for example, if somebody wanted to get a new bed, there are lots of different beds out there. And Living Made Easy has these fact sheets, so you can try and hone in and find out what is it I need, what style, what purpose. And you can research what's available. They don't necessarily sell directly, but they will then signpost you to retailers who will. There are other organisations that will do something similar. So there's NRAS Healthcare. And also you'll find gadgets that are really helpful, such as a heated gilet, which our colleague Debbie swears by. You'll find things like that on Amazon as well, because nobody wants you to go out and buy loads and loads of gadgets that just aren't helpful or useful. Another thing you could do perhaps might be to talk to your occupational therapist and see if they've got some suggestions that they can offer as well, rather than go home and buying loads of things that might not be suitable for you.
Lovely, thank you. So Rosie, is there a tool to help put socks on?
Yes, there are. There are many tools out there, and a tool to help with socks is one of them. They are usually called a sock helper or a sock slider or a sock aid. And they are particularly helpful if, like many, you do find putting a sock on quite fiddly, as it does involve, a lot of bending and moving, rolling of socks and things. The main advantage of a sock aid is to reduce the bend and reaching down. So the sock aids help to pull the sock into position for the foot. And then with the use of the sock aid, you just basically sort of slip your foot into the open sock without having to stretch or bend too much. There are different types of sock aids, so some more flexible, some more rigid. So, it's really worth doing your research to find something that suits your individual needs best. I think, as we said before, what works for your friend doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. It's really about finding something that is really tailored to you and your needs.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So Sarah, some people really find buttons difficult. Are there any aids to help with buttons?
There are, and I realised I should have worn a shirt to demonstrate how it could work. But you can find little implements, for example, from £4 onwards, for a simple one, and it literally will hook through one side or go through the buttonhole, loop round to the button, and then you pull it back out again. Some of them, it's like a wire loop, and you might find that there's a zip pull on the other end, or you can find ones with easy grip as well. So again, yes, you can find those.
Brilliant, thank you. Rosie, question for you. Can I get clothing adapted?
Absolutely. There are no limitations to fashion just because you have RA. You can find companies that, for instance, make pretty shirts with nice decorative buttons, but actually It's got a Velcro fastening. There are also sort of like pants and underwear that has side poppers and openings, so you're not having to step through a leg hole, because that can be quite fiddly as well. There are also bras out there that have the like clasp or fastening at the front, so you're not having to reach around to your back. And just again, finding stuff that works for you is really important. If you like some particular sense of style, then go for it. There's no limitations. It's just finding sort of the adaptations to those clothing.
Lovely, thank you. Sarah, is there something to help dry when you get out of the bath and not a towel? I know these dry you.
Yeah. Similar to a traditional towel, you might consider a microfiber towel, because these are just lighter. Because obviously when a towel gets heavy, when it gets damp, it's heavy with water and it's a bit less easy to move around. So microfiber is lighter and it easily bends into creases under arms, so that could be useful. And actually there are such things called body drying machines as well. And they are normally it's an upright tall machine that can sit in the corner of your shower and it will dry you. Now they are quite expensive, unfortunately. We are looking at between £500 and £1,000, but there are some smaller ones that can sit in the corner as well, about half that price, that you could find if it was something you were interested in. Alternatively, excuse me, make sure you're doing things that as soon as you're coming out of the shower, quickly dry yourself down and keep your clothes on a towel rail and keep that warmth in, and get dressed with the warm clothes, just if that can help.
Lovely, thank you. And Rosie, last question for you. Is there something to help with seatbelts?
Yes, again, there is. There seems to be a tool for most things now. So seatbelts can be quite fiddly at the best of times, but especially if you are finding it difficult to sort of manoeuvre. There is an aid called a seatbelt assist. It's a simple but yet effective solution for either a driver or a passenger. And this aid basically sort of attaches to the seatbelt, making it easier to pull across your body when putting the seatbelt on. It's easy to install. You can take it from car to car, as it is easily removed as well. So the convenience is really, really important and easy. And it can be either right-handed or left-handed. And they're usually sold in a pack of 2. Again, there are things out there, so worth looking around for, because there are things to make your life easier.
Lovely, thank you. So that leads us on to our next topic, which is about driving and some of the questions we've been asked recently. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you some questions, if that's okay. So if I claim PIP, so personal independence payment, do I get free car tax?
Okay, so there are eligibility criteria. You can apply for exemption from paying vehicle tax if you get the following. So the higher rate mobility component of disability living allowance, the enhanced rate of mobility component of either PIP, personal independence payment, or adult disability payment if you live in Scotland, or the higher rate mobility component of child disability payments. And it must only be used for the disabled person's personal needs. However, what is worth noting is that you can get a 50% reduction in vehicle tax if you get PIP, standard rate mobility component, or adult disability payment, standard rate mobility component. So they're worth looking into. Also worth noting is you might not have to pay VAT on having a vehicle adapted to suit your condition, or on the lease of a motability vehicle. So again, VAT relief is worth checking out on the government website.
Lovely. How do I apply for a blue badge?
Okay, so all the blue badge schemes should be handled by the local authority. You can use the portal on the government website, excuse me, or you can go directly to your council to inquire. Some benefits may mean that people automatically are eligible for a blue badge. So, for example, if you've scored 8 points or more in the moving around section of PIP. However, even if you're not automatically eligible, you can still apply. So, for instance, if you've got long-term problems walking or going to places, and that does include problems caused by stress, anxiety, or other mental health issues, or if you have severe problems using your arms, or you're applying on behalf of a child aged over 2 who has problems walking or going to places, or a child under 3 who needs to be close to a vehicle because of a health condition. So again, it is the government website. Each of the countries, as in England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, may have their own rules. So it's worth checking out your government website according to where you live.
Okay, lovely. And how much is a blue badge?
Okay, again, depending on which country you live in. A blue badge costs up to £10 in England and Northern Ireland. It's up to £20 in Scotland, and it's free in Wales. They last about 3 years, but the suggestion is that you apply for your blue badge if it's close to expiration date. Don't wait till your old one's expired. Apply before then.
Okay, lovely. Now, do I have to tell the DVLA I have got RA?
This one came up in one of our calls this week, didn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's quite an interesting one. So according to the DVLA, if you go onto their website, they state that you must tell the DVLA if you have a driving licence and you develop a notifiable medical condition or disability, or a condition or disability has got worse since you got your licence. And if you look, the notifiable conditions that are listed on their website include diabetes or taking insulin, fainting, heart conditions, sleep apnea, epilepsy, strokes, and glaucoma. So rheumatoid arthritis is not listed there per se, but there is an alphabetical condition list that you can have a look through and check. There is a section on arthritis and driving, and what it says is you must tell DVLA if you use special controls for driving. And if you do, you have to fill out a form G1. So I think part of this is considering how safe you are. Can you operate the pedals correctly? Can you steer the wheel? Are you in good, safe control of the car? So I think that's something you really have to consider. And it is down to the individual to notify DVLA. It is the driver's responsibility.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah.
Very, very welcome. So we said earlier that we had a couple of questions pre-submitted. So we've already gone through one. We had a second one, and I know at the beginning I said we'll try and steer, or we won't answer questions on medicines. I will answer this one, but in general terms, so I hope it's helpful. So my question is, I have very low white blood cell count and can no longer take methotrexate. Are there other drugs I could try? I'm currently on steroids. So in general terms, I would say yes, absolutely, there are other medications you can try. Whilst methotrexate is generally considered the gold standard DMARD, disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drug, there are 3 others that are commonly prescribed. What I would suggest you do is download our booklet on medications in RA, and that's available from our shop, or obviously call us, there's no problem to do that. Have a look at what is available, but then contact your rheumatology team and have that discussion, because that then is the medical question. Ideally, generally, yes, there are other medications, but the question is what's right for you, what can you take? And that needs to be discussed with your consultant, with your medical notes in front of you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. So there was another question, which was, will I put on weight while taking the medication? So as we all know, all medications have possible side effects, but a lot of them are precautionary and just to make us aware. Now, it's important to remember that not everyone will experience them. So I think reach out to your rheumatology nurse or your rheumatology team and just express your concerns, and hopefully they will be able to reassure you using their medical professional and their opinions as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So hopefully we've covered quite a good range of topics there, and they are questions we get asked all the time. They really are common questions. So hopefully you might have found something you didn't know, something you've forgotten, or at least something to consider that could be helpful in managing your RA. Now I'm just checking to see if we've got any live questions at the moment. I think, not sure that we've got anything. So what I will say, the number is on the ticker tape below, the 0800 298 7650. We are available Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 4:30. And do please call us. We don't have medical training, but we have knowledge and understanding. So call us and we'll be happy to try and help. Even if you just want to chat, that emotional support, do please use us. We're happy to help, we really are. So unless I think there's any other questions coming our way, I think I might call that a wrap for tonight. And thank my two colleagues, Amy and Rosie, who are on screen, for providing the FAQs. I'll thank my colleague Debbie, who's in the wings, who's providing moral support. Thank Jeff, who's behind the scenes doing our technical support. And just remind people as well, you might have been staring at this behind me, but smile. If you haven't done it yet, it's free, it's online, it's the self-management tool. With RA, it's about owning it. The medications will be there to control your disease. Anything you can do to control your symptoms in terms of self-management is really key, and it is a skill to learn. So hopefully try this package, the online self-management tool. More modules will be added. The next one, I believe, will be exercise and cardiovascular disease. So do please have a look at those. Contact us by phone. Obviously, we have an email address, actually, helpline@nras.org.uk. So please call us. We'll be happy to help or happy to reply to any emails. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching tonight and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.